right there, didn't I? But it is.
Okay, 2.1 quadratic functions and models. Again, another one that should be familiar to you when we approach it. So hopefully we can do this well. A little mastered a little better than we did last year. So we are going to write quadratic equations from graphs and graph quadratic equations from equations. Okay, the first thing we need to do is write this in standard form, vertex form. What is vertex form? It's every form I give you. Y equals, no, that's linear.
H and K.
H and K, so what's it look like?
Y equals A.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Parentheses X minus H parentheses plus.
And we're squaring. You got to put the function on there. What?
And then I said plus K.
Plus K. Don't forget the function, guys. Don't forget the function. Okay, so we have to write it in this form. There's a way, just like with linear, when I want y equals mx plus b, you guys will plug in your x and your y twice and your slope and find b and then plug it back in. But then I've told you to use y minus y equals m times x minus x, yes? But isn't that the same as y equals mx minus h plus k? Isn't that the same? Yeah, because I would add over my y, and then here's my h. So there are long ways to do this and short ways to do this. So the best way to do this is completing the square, and we worked on it last year, and I do not expect you to go, oh yeah, I remember how to do that. I expect you to think. Okay, so we have y equals negative 1/2 x squared plus 6x minus 10. We are going to complete the square. It's called completing the square because we are going to make a perfect square trinomial. Is this a perfect square trinomial if I multiply it out? And it froze up on me. It is. And so that's what we're going to make. So the first thing we do is kick out the negative 10.
oh, I know what we're doing.
Okay.
I did this.
Now, the leading coefficient has to be 1. So what do I need to factor out of these two? No, the leading coefficient has to be 1. I didn't say anything about changing the x's. What has to move?
What's the Venus said about the half?
It has to be 1. That has to be 1. So what do I have to factor out? Say it.
The 2?
What I circled. What do I have to factor out?
Negative
Negative 1/2. It has to be what?
1.
1. So I have to factor out the negative 1/2. So I'm going to bring over here negative 1/2. Now factoring is the same as division, yes? And when I divide by a fraction, I do what?
The reciprocal.
I multiply by the reciprocal, right? So I'm multiplying, well, this obviously just becomes 1, right? So it's just x squared, because that was the whole point of what we did, correct? And then a negative and a positive would be a negative. And then the reciprocal of 1/2 is
2.
2. So 2 times 6 is
12.
12. Did you all leave your gap there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now here, right here, is b over 2 squared. So what's b?
12.
12. Well, negative 12. But negative 12, and then we're going to square it. Does it matter if I take the negative or the positive of it? No. Okay, so b is 12. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. Squared is 36. And it's always going to be a plus because we're squaring it. Now, we know we can do anything we want to an equation as long as we balance it out, yes? So whatever I put in, I have to put out. Well, we factored out a negative 1/2, didn't we? Okay, so we added 36 here. We're going to have to subtract 36, but we also, this negative 1/2 is in front of this parenthesis, isn't it? So we've got to bring the minus, because we added, we have to subtract 36. You can do it either way. I would go negative 1/2 and then negative 36. Could I put negative 36 times negative 1/2? Yes. Either way works. So, what do you want to do first? We got to simplify it now. We got to factor this, and then we've got to simplify this.
Simplify.
Okay, so negative and a negative is a positive. Half of 36 is 18. So negative 10 plus 18 is
8.
8. Good job, Bladen. Okay, so plus 8. And then I have negative 1/2. Now, in here, what are we doing, guys? What process are we doing? What did I say it was?
Factor.
Nope.
That's
The whole process we're doing.
square.
Completing the square, right? So this better be a perfect square trinomial. Factors of 36 that add to negative 12.
-6.
Negative 6 and negative 6, yes? So it's x minus 6 what?
Square.
Squared. Now, do I have this in vertex form?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, this has a x on one side and y on the other. Does it matter? Am I going to change what I'm doing? Nope. Okay, first thing. Anybody?
Bring down the 58. Get it out of there.
Kick it out? Okay. Then what?
Bring down your y squared
Your
negative y.
Mm,
Change the y's to an x.
Nope.
Add a negative.
factor out a negative. Leading coefficient has to be what? 1. So I factor out a negative, and so I have y squared what?
Plus 16.
Plus 16y. And you can go ahead and put a plus here if you want. I'm going to go ahead and take care of my negative right here and put a minus instead of a plus on the other side. But normally I'd put a plus right away. I mean, no. Sorry. I'm going to add it. I'm going to subtract it. So I need another, like whatever I do is going to have another one. Yes? Okay. So now what?
B over 2 squared.
So 16 over 2 squared, 64. The reason why I do this, I'll tell you in a second. So 64 in and 64 out. Now what?
Simplify.
Simplify. So plus, so 64 minus 58.
Six.
Hmm?
6.
6. Okay, and factors of 64 that add to 16.
8.
Now, I put those y's in there to show you it doesn't matter what the variable is. No, it does not. Now, the shape of this would be completely different, but that's not what I'm asking you. Now, when you divide by a half, right here, What happens if I factored out a fraction and actually, or even factored out a number and gave myself a fraction? Do I still do b over 2 squared? Yes. So when you divide a fraction, so let's say my b is 5/7. Okay? I have to take this b divided by 2. Well, when I divide by 2, I multiply by what?
The reciprocal.
The reciprocal. So 1/2.
Yeah.
So this is 5/14 squared. So this would be plus 25/196, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I would have to deal with that. The reason I always make sure I write this step is because when I have to factor this, okay? When I have to factor this right here, this is my answer. X plus 5/14, and I didn't have to think about it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because up here, I didn't do the math, but 16 divided by 2 is 8. We know that, right?
Yeah.
Was 8 what went in here?
Yes.
Yeah?
Same with 6.
And same with 6. Or 6 went here. So if you write this work out, when it comes time to factor something this ugly, do you really have to think about it?
No.
No. So show your work and save yourself a brain aneurysm. Okay? Because I know that's what's going to happen. It's a big, I don't know what I'm doing. That's exactly what I'd get, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So, the definition of a quadratic function, I would assume you guys already know it is ax squared plus bx plus c. Yes?
Sure.
Yes. Okay. Vertex form of that is y equals ax minus h squared plus k. Correct? So we've had there's standard form, vertex form. Okay. A parabola is the shape of this. You all knew that, correct? Our parabola is symmetrical. Yes, they are symmetrical through their axis of symmetry, which goes directly through, axis of symmetry goes directly through the vertex. I don't think I'd write all those words. We call it the axis of symmetry or just axis, and it goes through the vertex. On a parabola, does it always go through the vertex? Yes. And the vertex is what coordinates? It's the H and the K. The vertex is also either a relative minimum or a relative maximum. If A was less than 1, would the vertex be a maximum or minimum?
Maximum.
A maximum, because if A is less than 1, it opens what way?
Down.
Down. Okay, if A is greater than 1, the vertex is a
Minimum.
minimum. We know these things, we're reviewing them. We're digging them out, dusting them off a little. Let me know when you guys are good.
I'm good.
Matt, are you good? Ainsley? Okay. How to find the vertex without completing the square. Because sometimes we don't want to find completing the square. Because if I complete the square, I have it in x minus h squared plus k. You think I'm going to keep writing that a million times? Yes. The vertex is h and k, isn't it? Yeah. But what if I don't want to put it in that? Well, if I don't want to put it in that, I can get the x value of the vertex by negative b over 2a. And that should be kind of familiar to you. You ever seen negative b over 2a in something?
Yes. The formula for when you can't factor.
The quadratic formula.
Yeah.
Okay, do you see this?
Mm-hmm.
It is the real part of the quadratic formula. Okay, so the y value, once I have the x value, how do I find the y value?
Plug in the x's.
Plug in the x. Okay, so negative b over 2a would be what? What's b? 5. So negative 5 over 2 times negative 4. So it would be 5/8. Oh, that's pretty. Not really, huh? Kind of gross, isn't it? So now what? How do I find my y? Plug in 5/8. So it gives me negative 4 times 25/64 plus 5 times 5/8 minus 6. Well, 4 goes into 64 16 times.
25 and 64. Square it.
I squared it. Yes? Well, 4 went into 64 16 times, so at least I don't have to get the denominator up to 64. I just have to get it up to what?
16.
16. So
25 over 16. No,
it's going to be 50 over 16, isn't it? Because 5 times 5 is 25. Then times 2 to get 8 up to 16.
Yeah.
So 50. So I've got negative 25 plus 50 minus, well, 16 times 6 would be 6, carry 3, 96.
Wait, why is it in the 6?
Because you got to get common denominators. Okay, so negative 25 and 50 is 25 minus 96 is negative 71 over 16. I don't think that reduces, do you? Because 16 is a bunch of 2s and 71's odd, so my vertex is 5/8, comma, negative 71 over 16. So if I were writing it in vertex form, there it is. Now, I ask you this. Would you rather have done that with your 8, like completing the square, or plugged in your x, like plugged in, got x, then plugged in and got y, and then had to go back?
Completing square.
I would personally rather just complete the square. I'm going to have fractions any way I go, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I completed the square when I'm done, am I done?
Yes.
Yes. But if I only want the axis of symmetry, would this be sufficient? Yeah. If I only want the axis of symmetry, or if I only want the max or min, that would be amazing to do, right? So this is the vertex. Is it a max or a min? Is it the max or the min of this equation? Why?
It's greater than 1.
What way does this open?
Down.
Down. So is it a max or min? It's also, if it opens down,
Oh, hold on.
yeah?
Hold on.
So this one little thing can tell me a lot, but if I have to write this in vertex form, is this the path I'm going to use? No. Am I good, Ainsley?
Yeah, I was just reading.
Oh, okay. Sketch the graph of the quadratic equation without using a graphing utility. Identify the axis of symmetry, the vertex, and the x-intercepts. Okay, how do you want to do it? Do you want to put it in vertex form? What do you want to do?
Negative b over 2a.
You guys want to do negative b over 2a? Okay. I want to factor it first.
No.
No? Okay. So x equals negative b over 2a. And write it till you remember it, please, guys. So what do I get when I do negative b over 2a?
Negative 1.
I get negative 2 over 2, so I get negative 1. I probably should label that I'm doing the vertex, huh? So there's the x. How am I going to get the y?
Plug it in.
So that'd be 1 minus 2 plus 1. So it would be what?
0.
0. So the vertex is
Negative 1, 0.
negative 1, 0. The axis of symmetry is what?
Negative 1.
X equals negative 1. Should always be an equation. So we got that taken care of. We got that taken care of. Now how am I going to find x-intercepts? How do I find x-intercepts on any equation, no matter what it is? What, Savannah? No.
Turn x into y and
Nope, that would be the inverse. How about set it equal to 0?
Set it equal to 0.
And it's quadratic, so I have to factor or use the quadratic formula, yes? Factors of 1 that add to 2.
1 and 1.
So x plus 1
So,
and x plus 1.
negative 1.
So x equals negative 1. And so the x-intercept is what?
1.
Nope.
0.
Negative 1, 0. Have to write it as a point. An axis of symmetry is an actual vertical line, so we write the equation of a line. An x-intercept is a point, so we make a what? Point. Now, I'm going to ask, because we didn't do very well on our test with this, I want the y-intercept. How do you find a y-intercept of any equation, no matter what it is?
Put zeros in the x's.
Put zeros in for x's. So I have y equals 0 plus 0 plus 1. So I get what? 1.
It's
0,
0, 1.
1. And then sketch the graph. So do we have enough to sketch this graph? Yeah. The x-intercept and the vertex are the same thing, aren't they? Well, if it goes through 0, 1, it also goes through negative 2, 1, yes? Since it's symmetrical. And then I have to draw a nice what? Nice curve. Don't be making them look like absolute values. If I find those things as graphing it, very easy to do. Yeah. On a test, I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to say graph it. And when I say graph it, am I expecting you to identify the vertex, the axis of symmetry, the x-intercept, the y-intercept? Yes. What's my domain? All real numbers. Because we know with the parabola, it's always all real numbers until I put it into a story problem, right? What's my range?
All real numbers. Y.
Look at the picture. What are the y's coming out of there?
1.
-2.
The y's, guys, the ups and downs.
1.
Infinity.
What is the smallest and what is the biggest?
The
Oh.
smallest is
0 and infinity.
Infinity. So y is greater than equal to what?
0.
0. I'm going to keep pushing it. It doesn't go away, so you might as well make the effort to get it. Questions? Okay, do it on your own.
So the X intercept, why are they negative? And they're negative, and
One is negative and one's positive. Because you're subtracting. Is that what you're asking? Like when I factor?
yeah.
Oh, why aren't they negative? Because I just factor out a negative. Don't be doing mine because it's wrong.
You put 2 instead of negative.
Yep. Because I'm like, wait a second, that's not, the axis of symmetry wasn't symmetrical. So while you're graphing, should you be thinking while you're graphing? Yes. Because if you're not, you're going to be drawing something that should be symmetrical. Like if I would have just stopped, I would have not gotten anything symmetrical. And it would have been wrong. The nice thing about the sketch is I'm making my sketch and then I'm labeling. See that? I made my sketch and then I labeled it. Don't label it and put dots and try to connect them and make it pretty.
How do you make them 5?
I'm also confused.
Because 4 plus 21 is 25.
So you just ignore the 8?
No.
Negative
Negative 4 plus 8 is 4.
plus 21 is 25.
4 is negative 2.
4 divided by negative 2. Because it's 2a. I have my negative there and it looks little. Because a is negative 1. Other questions?
Can you do my math for me today?
No. Domain?
All real numbers.
All real numbers. Range?
25,
Why
negative
is-
infinity.
1 is less than or equal to 25.
And if you're writing in an interval notation, you need to be putting negative infinity, comma 25. Smallest number always goes first. Always. Okay, we're going to stop notes from there today. We'll finish up tomorrow.